Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz vocalist and survivor Laura Perlman. Over the course of our interview, she discussed her new 2016 album called Precious Moments, and that was the result of a long, winding road. She has defeated cancer and a rare blood disease, and it was all with an eye on releasing this big jazz album. She grew up in the Bronx listening to the best in jazz via her parents, who were New York City educators, and she had the dream of becoming Sarah Vaughn one day. Instead, she has become truly herself, a survivor and a great jazz singer. Enjoy her story and dig this interview, my friends.
Hey, thank you for taking some time to talk with me. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. I know that your new album, Precious Moments, is kind of heating up right now. Give me an idea, along with this album, like what's been going on with you lately?
Well, a lot of my time now is spent promoting, promoting the album. I'm doing this interview with you, and I've been, doing what I can to promote the album, practicing a lot too, so I can get ready for some gigs. So just a lot of that's what's going on.
Right on. So talk to me about this album. Your story, which I'm going to delve into, is a very interesting story, not only of just of survival, but there's a lot of things that go into it. Give me an idea of what went into this album and how happy you are about it.
Well, I'm thrilled about it. I mean, to be surrounded by players like this is just amazing. I mean, these cats are amazing. More amazing, I mean, we went in, we had, I'd never met them. We had a rehearsal for like maybe an hour, and then we did the whole album in 4 hours. So that to me was just like amazing. Maybe we did a take or two, boom, and that's it. And so it was which is really what I love about it, and what the producer Mark Sherman and I really wanted it to be, was just as jazz should be. It's just a moment, right? It's a musical moment, not something planned or prepared, but it sort of is what it is.
Let me go back to the beginning of your life. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in the Bronx, New York. My parents were both, educators who worked in the New York City school system. And so because of that, they were very into, obviously, education and wanted me to learn about music. So I started taking maybe piano when I was, pretty young. I was fortunate, maybe 7 or something, took classical piano. And in the days when they had, orchestras in school, I played in the school orchestra. So I was lucky to be surrounded by a lot of music, And my dad was, there was just a lot of music in my house, so that was what was great. I mean, I joke about it, I call it the mono, because we had one speaker, that's what they did back then, And so he played everything. He had records, Bird and Train, and loved Dexter Gordon, and, Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughn, and just, I just sort of listened to this music, and at the time I was young, I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it just kind of seeped into me. And by the time I was maybe 15, I wanted to be Sarah Vaughn. That was it. That was it.
Cool.
I might still want to be her, but we do what we can.
Yeah, that's right. You can always dream. That's for sure.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, when did you start singing, or when did you discover that you had a voice and you wanted to be Sarah Vaughn?
I sang in a choir when I was in junior high school, and so I really started singing then. And maybe I was 14, I started singing along with the records, and that's just what I wanted to do. I mean, it was pretty, I had played piano, and, I was okay, and it's still really helpful. I can accompany myself and, do what I want. So it's a great tool to have. And, but I just felt like with singing I could just really convey more emotion, and I felt like I had more freedom to just express.
Sure. So from all those early albums that your dad had that you were kind of saturated with, was there one musician that kind of blew you away in the beginning that you were like, wow, this is jazz?
I'd love to say there was, but I don't know. I loved Coltrane, My Favorite Things. I love that record. But then I love Blues and the Abstract Truth. So I love a lot of, and, Jim Hall. I love a lot of different things, I think, for different reasons. I wish I could say there was one, although I did love Sarah Vaughn and Atlanta Hi-Fi. Sarah Vaughn and Cannonball. That may be the album that just really, I just love that album.
So let me ask you this. When you were a child growing up, what was your dream to be when you grew up? What did you want to aspire to be?
I wanted to sing jazz, so I wanted to do it the best I could. From the range of, like I loved Betty Carter, too, and everything she did. So there was such, and there was such expression in what she did, and I got to see her play a lot when I was younger, because I did get taken to a lot of jazz clubs, too, which was amazing, as a young kid. So I really just wanted to do that. I wanted to be, just a part of that if I could. I just was such a... really, I mean, I love music, but what I love about jazz is it's so free. I mean, yes, there is a form and a pattern, but it's so free, and I just love that, that it's not about being constrained. It's about expressing who you are in whatever way you can.
Absolutely. So the one thing that you did do that really kind of punched your ticket into this world of jazz is you graduated from Berklee. What was that experience like for you?
Well, for me, the most amazing thing about Berklee was there were great players there, and they had what they called these ensemble rooms, and you could go, and I did, every night, you could go play with different people. So it was just, I guess, I didn't get to live in the time when you could go down to the clubs and get to play with people every night, but this was sort of maybe a similar experience, and I could go every night, get my friends together, we go play, all night long, or you go down into a room where a bunch of your other friends were playing, and you go there, and that was just an invaluable experience, just to be able to sing and play, every night. I don't know, nothing has been, I haven't been able to create that since, to be honest. And I just learned so much, that nothing can replace that experience. There's nothing can ever replace that of just playing with people and learning what you do and being able to experiment like that,
Yeah, without a doubt.
For me, that was just fabulous. I mean, I did learn a lot, and all that in the school thing, but really what stands out is just that was just amazing, just an experience I don't think you can get.
Sounds like you got a lot more experiences after Berklee when you went to Hollywood. And you tracked and managed different pieces of music for production. What was it like to go from Boston to Tinseltown and to kind of start doing that?
Wow. Well, I did go to New York in the middle, so which was kind of cool, and I did start working in the film industry there, so that was kind of interesting too. But Hollywood's a very different place, so it was just very different. I did start to try to do some gigs here, but then, as we all need to pay the rent and all that, I just started to get concerned about that. That's a tough question because it's such a different world in Hollywood, but it was different. Actually, it's different now than it was then, so it was a lot more fun then, I think. People were a bit more loosey-goosey, if you will, or,
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as corporate and run by, suits and everything. So I have to say maybe in that sense I was lucky, it definitely date me, but it was before everything was digital, so it was kind of a bit more fun then and more creative, I think, for me, because if I would put together like a temp score for a film, it wasn't as politicized then, if you will, within the industry, and people didn't want to be as involved, so they just said, go, just do something. So actually for me it was like composing for a movie, with other people's stuff. It was actually fun and creative, I called it blue-collar art because it was just sort of technical but a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you were obviously good at it. You did it for more than 100 pictures, like Thelma and Louise and Driving Miss Daisy and a lot of these pictures. What do you think about now when you hear or see these movies or think about those days? What was it like to contribute music to a thing that people are going to watch forever?
Well, it feels good. The temp part, got thrown away, but then sometimes it was fun for me to hear that the score was actually influenced by the temp score. So that, even though maybe me and 3 other people know that, it does feel good. And it does feel good to be a part of something that, was, especially to me, it's about the people. So if it was a fun experience, that means more, You say that you work as hard on a movie if it's good or bad, because you don't know when you're working on it how it's going to come out, if it's going to be a success or not. So for me, it's about, if the experiences were good, then I feel really good about it. So I did get the, pleasure to work with some really creative, really interesting people. So that was fun,
Yeah.
That was really a fun thing. And it's a very different world. It's
Yes.
kind of hard to explain, but I did enjoy it, and I did feel really good about being part of those things.
Yeah.
I think it's even influenced my music in the sense of how I wanted to put together the record, and thinking of it from a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Thinking of it as a whole, and what it's not like it's a film, but thinking of it like, well, this is how I want it to be from beginning to end, as opposed to, well, just some random songs. But I like to think of an album as, from the old school of you listen, in theory, listen to the whole thing. So how is that going to be as a whole? How is it all going to work together?
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
that was that,
Well, so that really kind of helped your music brain kind of piece things together and grow. I would imagine that would have been a big leap, yeah.
So it's good. It wasn't like I had to flip burgers or do something completely unrelated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's flip tracks here and get out of the superficiality, so to speak, of Hollywood. And you had a very real event that happened in 2002 that probably cut through the mustard of all of that when you were diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. What was that like to get the diagnosis and to defeat that?
It was almost surreal. I mean, I remember when I was told about it, it just didn't seem real. It was like, what? It didn't make any sense to me. So I was kind of, to be honest, in a cloud for a while. And then it took a lot of, strangely enough, strength and stamina to get through it. Because it wasn't from, it was just a difficult process, months and months of chemo and surgery and more chemo and radiation. And, I really didn't, I had a lot of side effects, so it was difficult for me. But it definitely makes you reevaluate your life and what's important to you and, what you want to do and where you can go and what you can do, to be honest, I mean,
Sure.
After that, I couldn't work. My doctor's like, you can't work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just not going to happen,
Yeah, sure.
So.
How did you view the world, though, in a realistic sense after that? It tends to, I would imagine after an experience like that, you have to kind of, everything takes a new version, so to speak. Was it a positive thing or was it a negative thing?
Well, I tried to make it a positive thing. I mean, I think for me, that's an important thing to do. So I tried to make it like, okay, well, what can I do now? I mean, I was fortunate and, I was married, and so I decided, okay, how am I going to reinvent myself and what can I do? So I decided to make it a positive thing of what can I do with all this. And I actually ended up going back and getting a master's in music composition and then doing some teaching because I realized that would be, I had done all this, I'd done all this work and I wanted to be able to share it. So I wanted to make it a positive experience.
Yeah.
It's really the only way you can go.
Sure. That's right.
You have to move forward, and you have to try to make the best of everything because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
you only get one shot down here.
Exactly, right? A friend of mine says, it's not a dress rehearsal. This is it.
That's it. That is it. So you would figure that in a lifetime would be enough, but in 2012 you got a rare blood disease and then a transplant a year later. What was that like added on top of that experience from 2002?
I mean, I didn't even know what to do with that one, although oddly enough, and this will sound very strange, but because I had been through all that with the breast cancer, it was sort of like, okay, well, it was worse than I thought it would be, and one of my doctors said it would be worse than I thought it would be, but it's sort of like, okay, well, I have an idea how this is going to go, okay, I'm going to lose my hair, that's nothing, it's just hair, but I sort of had an idea. I thought I had an idea. I really did delude myself. But and it wasn't for me like I know a lot of people think about, well, should I do it? Should I do the bone marrow transplant? It was like, well, it has to be done. That's either you do this or you die. So that wasn't really much of a, for me, that wasn't like a thought process. Like, okay, what do we do? How do we move forward from here?
Yeah.
So I really just tried to take it day by day and move forward. Not that it was easy, by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that if you want to move forward, and I knew I wanted to do a jazz record. So maybe that in the back of my mind helped me, or in the front of my mind, maybe that helped me move forward. You know, having something I wanted to do. It was like, oh, I'm not done yet, you know, wait a minute, you know.
Yeah.
The chapters aren't over, so
True.
it was helped me. I think it really did help me move forward. You know, there's something that has to be done, you know, and it hasn't been taken care of yet.
Well, it seems like you accumulated a lot of good karmic points at that point, because after you conquer the disease, your brother David and Mark Sherman, a Juilliard jazz professor, and some others got together and made sure that this album happened. Talk to me about how all of these specific stars aligned and how all of this kind of got cashed in for your dream to be realized.
Well, you're right. I mean, I was incredibly lucky in that sense. And my brother knew I wanted to make a CD, and he was like, oh, you know, I can talk to Mark. And I was like, okay, you know. And I knew Mark. Mark was a childhood friend, you know, he was one of his good friends. Some of them all made fun of me, but Mark was good. And Mark said he was influenced by coming over to our house and listening to music. So that's actually, I think, what got Mark started. You know, it got him into. He wanted to be Elvin Jones after coming over to our house. So Mark said, sure, I'll do it. And interestingly enough, I hadn't seen Mark in, you know, ages. I mean, since we were both kids. But he said he would do it. And Mark is one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. He's just a lovely person. And, you know, I sent him a CD, demo I had worked on before. And he said, okay, really kind of, if you will, sight unseen, you know. And he said, okay, let's do it, and what songs do you want to do? And we Skyped a lot, and we got stuff together, and I told him the songs I wanted to do, and he said, yeah, just decide, you know, what kind of feel and what kind of tempo you want, and these cats will just do it, you know. And he wrote out some arrangements and some, you know, really cool reharmonizations of stuff, and Bill Cunliffe ended up writing 2 of them, and really, for me, it couldn't have been more seamless. I was incredibly lucky. I mean, really, just Mark said, okay, I'll get you great guys. And he did. I mean, all I had to do was really, you know, build up my stamina and practice my ass off, pardon my French, you know.
No, you're good.
Yeah, but just really, really, you know, build up. As much as I could. I wasn't in, you know, the best physical shape, and I may still not be, but, you know, we have to do with what we have. So yeah. So I was just, you know, constantly, I just worked and, you know, shed as much as I could. And to be honest, I was petrified. I mean, these guys didn't know what I'd been through, but I was just, you know, somewhere between I couldn't have been more happy or to completely petrified, you know, just like to doing this, knowing it was going to be like, boom, here we go, okay.
Yeah.
But he got together, you know, Bill Cunliffe, who's an amazing pianist and a great arranger, and Joe LaBarbera, he was just the infamous Joe LaBarbera. You know, when I say his name, I go, huh? You know?
Right.
I go, did I just say that? And Chris Colangelo, who's an amazing bass player. So we got these guys together, and Mark played, of course, vibes on the CD as well. We went to a studio, Tritone Studios in Glendale, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, that's almost like surreal and like a dream. You know, okay, we're going to do the song. What do you want? Well, I kind of wanted like a fast Latin, and Joe would come up with it. Hey, let's do it this way, and it was really magic. I mean, it sounds silly, but it really was. It just sort of all came together. You know, to me, it feels like even when I listen, I go, wow, it sounds like we've all been playing together for years. You know?
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of cats like this. This is what they do. You know?
Yeah, and that's amazing that, you know, I'm always amazed with jazz musicians about how fast they can bang something out in the studio. You hear bands like Radiohead, or they say the Rolling Stones are going in the studio, and they spend 6 months there, 3-6 months, and I hear about these jazz musicians, and they're banging these things out in hours and days, and I think it's a testament to how well skilled they are, A, and B, and when you're a master of improv, it just happens.
I know.
You know? It's pretty amazing. Do you think that going through this process of getting this album out kind of blotted some of that exhaustive pain that you had to endure all those years?
Well, it really gives me, you know, especially now that the CD's out, because I didn't realize how long the process would be from recording it to it actually getting out. it really gives me, I wake up every morning and I feel like, wow, I have something to look forward to. So I would say absolutely. It gives me, we all need a reason to wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
And so I don't know if this is the answer to your question, but it really gives me something to feel good about and to look forward, to look ahead with.
You mentioned Sarah Vaughn. You've mentioned some very prolific people that have been influential on you. So if you could get into a time machine and see anybody in the history of jazz live, where would you go and who would you see?
Wow, if I can only pick one?
Pick a couple.
Well, I would still probably want to see John Coltrane and Bird. I mean, I'd want to see those guys because they are those guys, I did get to see Miles later in his life.
Cool.
Except that he had his back in Boston. He had his back. He was wearing his yellow jumpsuit, and he had his back to the audience the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah, but still, he sounded like Miles, so that was cool. But I wasn't expecting that. But I think I'd want to go. But I'd want to be in those late night clubs, where they just went all night. I think that's more of what I want to be would want to be a part of. Just. Rather than like the after hour stuff, if that makes sense, the stuff that really wasn't necessarily for everybody. I still want to see that,
Yeah,
because those guys are what influences everyone else.
Yeah, without a doubt, they were meteoric. Let me ask you this: as somebody that loves jazz and has loved jazz for a long, long time, why do you love jazz?
It moves me. I feel it inside, and I love as I said, the freedom and the improvisation and. It's all about what you do with something. People listen to jazz and go, really? You play these songs? Because they're songs that are 50 years old that, like My Favorite Things is from a musical. And people go, really? Who aren't into jazz don't quite get that, right?
Yeah.
But so it's about the interpretation. It's about what you do with something. It's about you take a beautiful melody and beautiful chord changes, and what do you do with it from there? How do you interpret it? Vocalist, how do you interpret the lyrics, and how do you interpret the phrasing? And then as an instrumentalist, or as I, like to and want to do some more, scat and stuff, what do you do? Where do you take it from there? So really, I feel like there's no end. And you can say, okay, I've done that now, It's an endless art where you just can get better and better and better. I don't think you can say, okay, I've explored everything. I don't know that could ever happen. I think that for me, I just love that. It's so about personal interpretation. It's so about what you do with something. I mean, that would be the same in other music, but I just feel like there's more room in jazz, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you this. Everybody has their interpretation of who you are, your family, your friends, your fans, the people that produced your album and worked with you, but who do you think you are?
Wow. I've never been asked that question. Well, I probably still think I'm the person I was when I was 15, so maybe that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I still think I'm that kid that wants to get out there and, and jam and play and whatever. So I think, as our bodies age, but the good thing is hopefully inside we can still be what we were as kids. And sometimes it's interesting because you realize, like there are friends of mine who have, they go, oh, I didn't know you could do that, So we sometimes forget that we have, lived through so much, but people on the outside haven't seen all that. So I like to feel musically I have a lot more unexplored, that's unexplored, and I have a lot more to say, and that this was for me just a wonderful, wonderful way to kind of just start. And I hope that there's a lot more to come.
Thank you for sharing your story. Good luck with this album. I love it. I'm going to actually send a track next week.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much, Joe. Good luck to you as well.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Laura for her courage, her guts, her music, and that magic. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com for all things Neon Jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.